Let's take the opportunity now to bring into and past its 6th week a commitment made here by this news channel in partnership with Business World to give a forum continuously for Indian entrepreneurs to not only showcase themselves, their ideas and their companies, but what their issues, concerns, hopes, dreams and aspirations have been for the Indian economy. We've been calling it the Atmanirbhar special series. We've done 35 episodes and it's been a non-stop effort that we should continue and are continuing. Let's take that opportunity now for this special 60-minute telecast. Joining us today, we have Major Manjeet Rajain. He's the Global Chairman of Tenon Group of Companies. Mr. Vinesh Menon, he is the CEO of Education, Skilling and Consulting at Ampersand Group. Mr. Dharmendra Kumar, he is Chairman of the Competition Advisory Service LLP. Mr. Vikas Chadda, author and CFO, advisor and hospitality and travel expert. Mr. Kumal Verma, CBO and co-founder of MoneyTap, as well as Ms. Nanni Singh, she is Chief Executive of Showcase Events. And as always, Anurag Batra, Chairman of Business World, joining us on the telecast to help us guide our conversation. Anurag, set the tone of what we need to be discussing over the next 60 minutes.
First of all, Rishabh, I must compliment you and Newsec on fantastic coverage of the Indo-China dynamics and what it means for various facets of the country in terms of geopolitical realignment, in terms of defense and military impact, in terms of business and economic impact. I think Newsec says showcase that it is the headquarters of news and not noise. And on a sustained basis, taking such an emotive as well as substantial issue every day and going to the bottom of it. So I'd like to congratulate you on that and Newsec on giving a platform to the voices in India that in some way lead India. Coming to the Newsec Business World dialogues on business and economy, Rishabh, over the last 6 weeks, entrepreneurs have given a mixed inputs on how they've seen the economic stimulus, on when do they see the economy coming back, and most importantly, what is their contribution to getting it back. Overall, it's been a thumbs up for the government. On execution and speed, there is a thumbs up. Lots of companies have started to receive money, but the consensus of experts and entrepreneurs were in the place that the next 3 months will be a tough grind, but in the medium term, which is in the next 6 to 12 months, and over the long term, which is the next 24 to 60 months, India will emerge stronger. That's the gist of what's happening today on our show. And we can start with Major Manjeet Rajain. You come from the security services and domain, the facilities management domain, and you run a very large enterprise. Tell us, how do you see the economic stimulus and where do you see the Indian economy going?
Anurag ji, I think the government stimulus that the government has provided, the Honorable Prime Minister came on in 3 different installments. It's over 20 lakh crore rupees, which is probably 10% of our GDP, and it's probably one of the largest in the developing sector. Personally, I feel that is a really great effort towards keeping the economy afloat, especially after a very bad period where a large workforce was out of work. Economy literally shut down overnight. So overall, I think that was a great effort by the government. But like they always say, the devil is in the detail, and we would like to wait to see how that input reaches the last level. How the key lies in the execution of how this happens. It is extremely important that the benefits of this stimulus actually trickles down to the last level. Some of it is already being seen, some of it is yet to be seen, some will have to be fine-tuned, like the Manrega scheme in different state operates in different levels. So the verdict is yet to come out on how the stimulus will impact us, but overall, I think it has been a great effort by the government.
Okay, Major Rajain,
if I may ask, what specific can be done more? If you had specific recommendation and you saw the first phase of the economic stimulus as a installment one, then what else do you think the government can do to spur up the economy?
The first thing from my perspective, because we are a very large employer, we have 75,000 plus people that we employ. So For me, what would be most important is to ensure that their livelihood is protected, that they are brought back to wherever they have gone back during the bad days of COVID. Of course, the reverse migration has started. We fortunately are in a business where the migration really didn't impact us, but there has been a huge migration with the clients that we service. And unless those clients come up to steam, it will be difficult for us to come up to steam. One of the things that I would expect the government to do, which is very important at this point in time, also keeping in mind Atmanirbhar Bharat, is simplification of the labor laws. That is something that has been a long pending requirement of an industry like mine, where the workforce is really large, and strengthening of the insolvency laws. That is the other part which seriously impacts businesses
Okay,
like us.
Major, if I can ask you the same question, Mr. Rajai, what are your indicators per se, sir, for a normalization in what you are tracking as a company and as a group?
So the kind of it's actually a mixed bag, Rishabh. We are seeing in certain sectors a great amount of revival. In certain sectors, it is still, the jury is still out. For example, the retail, hospitality, and cinema sector. We service a large amount of them. In fact, most of PVR, and we are finding that's going to take a long time. It's dependent on how the disease is behaving in various parts. So, for example, Bangalore cinemas were supposed to open on first. They've now been pushed back by nearly a month. It's a mixed bag right now. But there are certain industry. Manufacturing is coming back very quickly. Pharmaceutical is already 100% there. Certain parts are coming up very well. But as the government expands on its spending, I think the impact.
Okay, we'll come and pick your brain on the particular reforms you mentioned, because to some part we have been told that they're currently being undertaken or already have been undertaken, and the states are supposed to be following suit. Let me quickly take the opportunity to rope in Mr. Menon. Mr. Menon, is the reverse true for you? Has the transitional change that we saw, in a tsunami-like fashion, take on the in the education sphere? Is it streamlining now? Do we have a pattern to operate for the next year?
I'm afraid not. I think we are still not out of the woods. There are a couple of problems that are haunting us. Okay, first of all, education is not seen as a sector that's going to revive an economy. Education is really the fundamental on which we need to really build the future. And therefore, somewhere in this period, I don't think it's getting the desired impetus that it should. So we still have a lot of clarity problems from the government advisories. Almost, if you really look at all the schools, I don't think they have received more than 30 to 35% of the fees that they're supposed to get. So that's putting them under a lot of strain. And the expenditure is really not going down. In fact, it is going up. So that's a bit of a concern. Having said that, it is starting to definitely make one big impact. The technology platform, which is something that's been wanting to get into the academic space and try to really build much better synergies with academia, I think that's really gone up. I think the COVID has got that going, and the edutech sector is probably at its best phase right now. I think innovation is at its peak. So that's really going up. But otherwise, overall, I think we need to probably do a little bit more for this.
But are you seeing a boom? Before I go back to Anurag to introduce our next guest, are you seeing a boom? I mean, is the education space a net hirer right now? Only the nature of the jobs are changing?
No, just come back on that question, please.
I mean, are you seeing a boom in the number of hirings? With lots of e-education platforms, I'm told, are hiring like there's no tomorrow because they need teachers. Now, it would be an adaptation phase, but is that happening so that the space becomes a net hirer this year?
That's right. That's right. So the tech, again, the tech platforms are certainly on its rise. I'm talking the brick and mortar platforms which are under stress. But the tech platforms, yes, they are.
Okay, Anurag.
I want to bring in Mr. Dhanendra Kumar. You've been on the other side, you've been in the government, you were the chairman of the Competition Commission of India, and you've seen how government works and the impact of what government does. Tell us, how do you rate the economic stimulus? Where is it good and where it can be better?
Thank you, Anuragji. First of all, you started out by complimenting Newsx. Let me also take this opportunity of complimenting Business World. I've been following up your stories, and your stories are full of very relevant and contextual content. And I'm a great admirer of your Business World, so compliments to that. Now, coming back to your question, let me say a few things. First of all, when you are talking of India, you are not talking of one country really, you are talking like a continent. you are talking of a continent of, let's say, 33 states, many of whom are bigger than Britain and Germany and many others. So in a country like this, which has got so many states with different geopolitical and demographic content, the economic structure, to assess the impact of a stimulus like this in a national context is not easy. India's economy is basically comprised of, let's say, three main components. We all know that: agriculture, which is about 17%, manufacturing, which is about 29 or 13%, which includes mining and stuff, many things like that, and the services, which is the main thing, which is about 53-54%. Now, in a situation like this, the impact would be varied on different sectors. When we had this pandemic, services were, the sector was very badly hit, and informal sector in particular was very badly hit. Now, what are the priorities of the government right now? First of all, to feed our vulnerable population. And that's why the Prime Minister had announced initially in the package, and now they've extended it, free food and ration for about 80 crore people up to November. Now, this is a very big, in fact, world's largest feeding program on the planet. So they've undertaken that. So first of all, Jaan hai to Jahan hai, and then of course Jaan bhi. So first of all, to feed them, it's a big challenge, and they've undertaken that. Now comes the question of generating demand, which is one of your main questions. Now, we are going to generate this demand, as I see, and the constituents of various the components of this stimulus package through very productive investments in infrastructure and other areas like healthcare and education and so on. So infrastructure, it takes a lot of time, but it's a productive investment. Now, same is true in many other areas. Many people, many economists have calculated that the real stimulus, so to say, is something like 1.5 or 2%, not 10% as the government claims. Some people have also said that it is not really like a stimulus, it's like a sedative and stuff like this. Various analytical reports which have come out. But my view is that if the government had tried to put all that cash into the economy, it would have impacted the ranking by the various credit agencies and various rating agencies in the government, in the world. So therefore, what they have done is a very clever balancing of how much to give, where to give. In terms of its impact, it's going to take a little bit of time.
Okay.
It takes 6 months to 1 year. And just to complete one more second, that what could be done now? They need to expedite, they need to accelerate execution of those projects, and the states have to partner also very effectively. That's what is needed.
Anurag.
Thank you. Mr. Kumar, we'll come back to you. Vikas, you come from a sector that has gone to zero activity or close to zero if we don't take the conversion of hotels into hospital quarantine facilities. What is the hospitality sector doing to kind of get government's attention? Because the sector hasn't got any mention even in the stimulus. And second, when do you see the hospitality sector coming back?
Thank you. And it's a good opportunity for us to highlight the problems of the hospitality sector out here. As we discussed, there's a good welcome 20 lakh crore stimulus package which got announced. It had good measures. So some of those measures percolated to hospitality, which was credit to the MSME sector, which many of the hoteliers could avail of. Now, when we are moving on from the first stage, which is from the lockdown to unlocking, the focus, I think, has to be on the demand creation. So the sectors like manufacturing, IT, FMCG, these guys have bounced back. But contact industry sectors like hospitality, retail, travel, aviation, still continue facing the pressure. And in fact, if you look at it, we are the largest creator of jobs in terms of a number, because we've looking at adding 80 million people who directly or indirectly are involved in travel tourism. And at this stage, when we're like wanting to move into the unlocking, I think for us the mantra is of resilience, because right now it's not a sector which on its own can create the demand. So the demand has to be created through the upward trend in terms of the other sectors. So if you see the IT sector or pharma performing, we see the IT hubs also starting to get the business in hotels. At the same time, as a sector overall, we've definitely made representation. So, but it has been fragmented in a way. So it has been either the hotel industry or it has been travel or aviation. But as a complete package, I think we will need to look at a second round of assistance or some kind of a relief from the government, which is primarily helping us to sustain ourselves. Because
Mr. Chadha, I'm sorry to interject, but is the same sustained interactions between industry and government which was happening during the lockdown, is that continuing? Are you getting redressal? Somebody hearing out your concerns and coming up with novel solutions?
Yes, so the discussions have been around. So see, the whole point is that this industry, the government obviously cannot keep pumping money, and that's not a solution. So the solution has to come out of opportunities for demand creation. So I think the first step the government has taken in terms of opening up of the hotel sector, though with 33% occupancies, but that's the stage one. Then we also started getting into other opportunities in F&B where you're using technology and contactless deliveries. Again, that's going to start helping the restaurant industry.
Yes.
The only thing which we need to be mindful of is that the standalone hoteliers or the restaurants are not like an industry. It's a fragmented industry, and they don't have the deep pockets to survive long-term, slippages in terms of revenue, because they're purely looking at the revenue as a model to sustain costs.
Okay,
and they don't
I know the kitchens have been opened, and even hotels have opened their kitchens. There is a pay now, stay later kind of concept to get some revenue moving. Of course, all of this doesn't work until people can start moving in actuality, and maybe on the 15th of August, we get some details of what's happening with our vaccine. Let me quickly take the opportunity to quickly rope in Kunal Verma. Kunal, for our viewers watching this telecast, can you help understand, what is it that you guys do at MoneyTap?
Sure. Essentially, we are in the lending business. So we are a digitally enabled consumer lending company. We've been in business for about 5 years, and providing unsecured credit to individuals across the country. We are currently, at our peak level before the COVID shutdown happened. We've been lending across 50 odd locations, and I would say, as a young company, I think it's still early days for us, but over the past few years, I think we've been able to get up to about 3,500 crores of disbursements out. And our mantra was very simple. We knew that the demand for credit and money is huge in this country, but what we were trying to do is use technology and use the smartphone to provide credit to individuals by a mobile phone, through a mobile phone app. It is a pure play lending product, but transmitted using technology and a mobile phone. And it was coming in the form of a line of credit.
So how's the past 3 months been? Because logic would say that, you guys must have been swamped.
Yeah, I think, while we saw the country getting impacted in a massive way, we did see that demand had not really gone down to zero for us. People have been coming back and, asking a lot for money, and across stratas of society. And we've mostly been looking at, individuals and salaried professionals, and we've seen people getting impacted by job losses. But I can tell you that the demand is coming back up faster than we had imagined it to be. People do need money at all points in time. And, since we provide credit cards as well as like a regular personal loan and credit line product, we're seeing it coming back in all formats.
Okay, let's come back and discuss the larger atmosphere, because we've seen a move away from Chinese apps. Anurag, go ahead.
Yeah, so one to Mr. Dhanendra Kumar and to a lot of panelists who come on our show, and we talk about demand, which is the real, currency for the economy, so to say. But maybe the government doesn't want the demand to come back in entirety till the COVID is settled, so to say. So, we have to factor that. So the government has the data, it has the resources. My view is in September, October, we'll see a lot more spending from the government leading up to Diwali in November. Kunal, what I want to ask you is, there is a real fear that some of the startups whose revenues have dried up to zero or close to zero, plus they haven't been able to raise funding, they will over the next 60 to 90 days fold up. Is that fear real or it's just overthinking?
No, Anuragji, I think what you mentioned is a very, very real fear. We are estimating almost as much as maybe 30% of smaller, weaker companies and SMEs and startups to actually wind up because they had very weak balance sheets or the fundamentals were not good. We are in fact looking at acquiring some smaller companies, people who have not had the chance of raising money. I mean, we raise money and from private equity and venture capital funds globally. So we are doing pretty fine, and revenue has not gone down to zero. But a lot of companies who are hopeful that just by usage of technology they would be able to get some traction and then get investors to pump in money and then look at profits and business fundamentals later, I think they are under a lot of question. And some of the largest companies, whether you look at mobility, whether you look at delivery services, and people who had large coffers as well, they also have been impacted massively. The small companies, for sure, a lot of them are going to wind up. We are just in the process of evaluating if we can acquire a few smaller teams and good brains out there, and get and we are hiring in this stage, so we're looking at maybe if there is an opportunity for us. So for me as a businessman, I think I'm pretty confident that good businesses will prevail, but at the same time it's going to be really tough for people who had weak fundamentals or who had like very, very thin thin balance sheets.
Okay.
Nani, you come from the events or the experiential domain, which is again gone down to zero. Events are not happening, and over the next 45 days, we can see that they won't come back, possibly even 75 days. So how do you think the event industry is going to reinvent itself?
Okay, thank you for this. And it's really important, after having heard everybody's perspective and how the respective industries are doing. The event industry is totally experiential. It is a live space. So in our industry, there is no possibility of, that this can happen, this can't happen. But yes, having said that, the most important thing is that the impact of the digital and the virtual spaces that have entered our industry big time. So, a lot of us have moved into the space of taking our events into the virtual space. Many of us have managed to do it. Some of us are on the way of doing it. And those of us who were waiting, I guess, exactly like Kunal just said, that,
If you were at 100 in March or, 120 in Feb, where are you? Are you at 5, 10, 20?
10.
10. So there is a substantial loss. And there
Big loss.
The digital experience cannot substitute for the real experience of being in the same room as an individual or a performer
Not
or an
at all.
artist. But I think with AR, VR, I think as we go along, the whole immersive experiences will possibly mirror the real life.
Absolutely. You said the right thing.
Rishabh, back to you, Rishabh.
Yeah, why don't you finish that thought, ma'am? Because how much of this is betting on adoption of new ways of doing things, and how much of this is just hoping and praying for the vaccine to come?
No, but you know what? The vaccine, when that happens, it's not that vaccine is like a cure that, okay, fine, I've got COVID, I put my vaccine and I can go and do an event. It's not going to work like that.
True.
So that's a ridiculous fallacy. All of us we keep talking about and mentioning the vaccine. But having said that, it's innovation and creativity right now. And what this lockdown has done for everybody in the event industry is to add that bonding spirit, which was like, lacking earlier. There was an artist, there was an audience, so there's an event and there's a client, there's an audience. There was that little bit of a gap that always was there, and now I think those gaps are reducing to a great extent.
But are you seeing people, ma'am, are you seeing people showing a willingness to pay for, let's say, a virtual online event?
Not as much, because there is no money in the market. So, and we also understand that when you're doing a virtual event, the total cost of the event comes down to probably 25 to 30% of a live event. We are aware
Fair
of
enough.
that. So we are also accepting it. I don't think we have an option in the matter if we have to survive and we have to continue.
Okay,
and
maybe
stay in the market.
those consumer attitudes quickly change. Major Rajai, if I can quickly bring you back into this, how much of this has to be adaptation by industry itself? I mean, we in the media industry, we've been non-stop for the past 4-5 months but it's been an adaptive process. I mean, in any other telecast, I would have had a camera unit in every one of your homes right now. But our guests have adapted to a new format of functioning. How much of adaptation is demanded out of companies, and how much will just have to be waited out?
So Rishabh, like you very rightly said, adaptation is a lot of adaptation is happening. So all of us used to talk about moving to technology, but I think COVID has really pushed it very quickly down, and we've all tried to adapt to what we are trying to do. From the client perspective, the difference is the client is also willing to relook at the way we do business. If we had 50 people earlier, you don't need 50 people now. You have contactless cameras, you have contactless attendance, you have contactless attendance and thermal imaging. Everything is becoming contactless, right up to, and from our perspective, it is very important because the first man you meet at any premises is a security guard. So we are at maximum risk from that perspective. I would say it is more like pivoting of the business from being, face to face to looking at technology now, and digital technology, remote monitoring, artificial intelligence, things which are coming in slowly.
But Mr. Ajay, how much of the cost of this adaptation have you guys already factored in? That look, we had to do this one time, we have done it. How much is your recurring cost, and how much is actually your cost saving from doing these things?
For the client, I think it's going to be a lot of cost saving. But now, interestingly, the client who always treated his service providers like vendors, he's now treating them like partners because he cannot do without them, and he's willing to invest. So earlier, the client was not willing to invest. Secondly, what I've seen, the good thing come out of this crisis is clients are willing to pay on time, and sometimes ahead of time.
Okay. Well, what do you know? Okay, Anurag, why don't you get in Mr. Kumar, then we have to take a break. Anurag.
Mr. Kumar, all I wanted to ask you, if you had to make a bet about where the Indian economy will be in next 12 months, what would you say?
I would put a bet of as much as you want to. In 12 months, I think we are going to recover most of it. In fact, go farther than what we are today. Now, why I say I'll explain. I'm not saying it only as a political rhetoric. This is an opportunity for us to put the reset button on a number of things. We are adapting to a new normal. And I can tell you, I was long back in telecom, 98 to 2002. At that time, the tele density was 3%. Now we have about 130 crore telephones in India, and everybody, even in rural areas, they are hooked to telephone. Now, when we are switching to digital economy and virtual platform in most things, we are having teleconsultations with the doctors. We are having everything on telecom these days, transaction in money. We are having number of things, entertainment. We talked of virtual platform. I am aware of a particular startup which is in India and Singapore, where they are offering visits, travels, tourhq.com, travels around the globe on virtual platform, and in about 800 rupees, the entire family can sit and watch. And
but Mr. Kumar, after Anurag has done the breaking news of asking you to make a $3 trillion bet live on television, what's the golden goose? What gives you the most amount of excitement that, here in this area, we can really crack it and, make money for the entrepreneurs and for the country?
See, $3 trillion, what we have been claiming or targeting earlier, quite honestly, it may be a little farther than what we had it earlier, but we'll be still close to it. When we hit this pandemic, there were 14 crore unemployed people suddenly in the first lockdown, second lockdown, and in the quarter. Now we have substantially recovered. We should have come. Now, $3 trillion, of course, is a very ambitious target, but with the investments that we are making in infrastructure, and also, by the way, let me say, we were unfortunately hit not only by this, and I have no hesitation in calling it Chinese virus, President Trump also called, but by China also at our borders, which meant a number of things, including in our investments, which let's say in an investor there are only 5% Chinese investment, but the entire thing goes now for an approval route. So the foreign direct investment FDI was also impacted, and a number of things in our trade.
Okay, Anurag, it is an important time where we come up with new ideas and new innovations. Some things we'll have to wait out, we can't help. But in the interim period, from what's the supposition you're getting from our guests? Are people being more hopeful or more pessimistic right now?
Human beings are wired to be hopeful. That's how we are. And when you talk of an Indian entrepreneur's DNA, and I'm using the Indian entrepreneur's DNA is literally about making a lot out of very little. The reason Indian professionals do well abroad is one, we have the sincerity. Second, we have the hard work. Third, we are used to working with constraints. In India, if you take up anything, I think we have constraints of all kinds. So I think COVID has done good in the sense I am mindful of the loss of life and the devastation it's done on the livelihood side. I'm very mindful.
Okay.
But let me tell you what are the positives. Positives are that it has engaged us to look at life in a different way, to innovate, to pivot, to do more with less. And dare I say, over the next 3 to 6 months, because of the government ban on the Chinese app, even in the digital ecosystem, you will see Indian companies. I mean, Facebook is a global company, but it has launched a TikTok-like service from India. It is being tested in India. It's been launched in India. Indian entrepreneurs, I think, for the first time, will start thinking.
Okay, I was interviewing the founder of something called the Elements app, which is another social media app that's coming up with a different kind of model just a few days ago. That's interesting. Vinesh Menon, why don't you come back in? Because, amidst everything that has hit us like a ton of bricks, what is giving you a little tinge of excitement? Is it the fact that there is a space vacation happening in the online sphere with the Chinese getting out? Is there a fact that more Indians are looking within to Indian entrepreneurs, Indian products, Indian companies?
Yeah, I think one of the greatest changes that is happening, at least in the education space, is the transition to the technology-enabled programs, the platform that can really get us to reach out to the hinterland of India. You see, we as a group we don't just deal with private schools, but we also work with the government to try and transform their schools.
Yeah.
And really get into that space. I think one of the greatest requirements in the government space, or if you really get into the depth of India, is to really get the last mile child to be able to access education. And I think one cannot do that without technology. And
no, but in this environment, Mr. Menon, is the government or their agencies, are they listening to your ideas, or they still have some sort of tendering process that you please come and deliver this service and we cut you a check and thank you very much? Or are they open to innovative solutions that you're coming up with for them?
Okay, so I'll answer this in two parts. From the central perspective, let's say if you talk about stimulus and all kinds of central policy-driven changes, not as much as we would like them to. They are doing some things, but I think much can be done beyond that.
Okay.
But if you really go down to the state, so education is a state subject, and if you really go down into the states and start talking to the state folks, I think there is a definite ear that they're giving you.
Okay.
We have done some fantastic work in Punjab. We've done some good work in Mumbai and some of the other states, Himachal, etc. So there is some.
Okay, so we want to flip it. We want entrepreneurs like you who know the solutions and what can be tech-based and what can't be. Some part of learning can't be tech-based, and telling government how to do it rather than the other way around. Anurag.
I want to ask Vinesh, Rishabh, I must give you a statistic. If you take Maharashtra as a state, about 45 days back, 93% of the government school students in Maharashtra did not have access to tablets and bandwidth for accessing digital education or education through digital technologies. I think education, rather than bridging the digital divide, at least in the initial days, it created a digital divide among students. I think what will happen is that Indian entrepreneurs will first time produce Indian solutions in the technology space, in the digital space,
No, but Anurag, I'd like to see those 200 million tablets.
That's happening in education space. I'm personally aware of at least 20 startups that are looking at the unique situation of Indian education ecosystem.
Yeah, so the backup we need is a silicon chip manufacturing to be put up in Bengaluru so that those tablets can be made here. We need to get these basics sorted, and yes, the Indian entrepreneurs will take it from there, because right now an Indian company with an Indian brand name will still have to go abroad to source these tablets for us. Let's quickly get in Kunal. Kunal, is there an excitement? You know, and I don't mean this from a deleterious or a negative point of view, but there is a vacation in space that is happening with the Chinese app ban. Now they might try to do some Benami apps at some point of time, but are you guys feeling excited that this is giving you the opportunity of a lifetime?
So, Rishabh, like they say, never let a good crisis go waste, right? So we see a lot of opportunity right now. I think the outflow of a lot of the Chinese apps and Chinese companies, what it has done is that it has suddenly created space for a lot of Indian innovation to happen, and we've seen the same thing happen in financial services as well, in our sector, which is the lending businesses as well. There were a lot of Chinese companies who were trying to do payday lending, and they had all kinds of insane interest rates and stuff. And suddenly, all of these guys had to, the regulator came down very tight on them, or at least has been, continuously been watching them. I think with all of that going away, the one major excitement that has been created in this space is that, in a lot of ways, we feel that the regulators kind of got your back. So they will promote the right kind of businesses and back the right kind of businesses, which help the Indian citizens.
Okay, so for once in your life, you're feeling that government and regulation is actually with you, not just a stumbling block in your way. But I have to ask you this quickly, Kunal. I mean, what is the mind space amongst young entrepreneurs like you? Are you guys still thinking that, look, we come up with something, build it up to a certain level, and 5 years later let some foreigner come and buy it off us? Or are you guys thinking the reverse, that let's build it here and then maybe we can take it global?
I think, Rishabh, nobody's thinking 5 years for the first time.
Okay, everybody's thinking, 5 months.
3 months,
Okay.
6 months, 12 months.
So,
okay, Kunal, take that thought.
I think, but it's a great question. Look, I've been an entrepreneur now for out of my 2 decades of career, I've been an entrepreneur now for 1 full decade. I've done multiple startups, all Indian companies, right? And I've built in businesses and made them profitable for India. Our vision is very clear. We are very excited the fact that the opportunity is being an Indian company. There hasn't been a better time for technology to create massive operating leverage. Digital and technology is not just like a brand line or a sideline or a tag. It's an actual benefit right now. We see that a lot of the Indian companies are going to come out of this much stronger, because COVID has also forced everybody to become much more focused on business fundamentals, making sure that you're building the business for the right reasons. I personally am super excited. I think our vision has stayed true. I think we have planned right from the start that this company is probably going to outlive us. We are looking at a 10-year, 20-year plan somewhere along the way.
Excellent. And we're hoping that when you become really big, the regulator doesn't say, oh, these guys have become really big, let's now slap in some more regulation. Anurag, why don't you get...
in fact, I want to...
Yeah, Anurag, go ahead.
I'm so glad Kunal is saying the things. I can tell you, talking to 20, 30 entrepreneurs still every day, that 4 things have happened from a business and economy standpoint and an answer. For the first time, sadly, in a lot of businesses, revenues have to be more than costs. I mean, for some of us, it's like a basic. For the first time, sadly, for the first time, because they were on funded money and it didn't matter whether you lost, and we in the media glorified them for raising capital, not having an impact or not being. Second, every business, as Kunal has rightly said, has to be a digital tech business. Media has to be media tech, edu has to be edu tech, fin has to be fintech. So, third, when it comes to marketing, everything has become D2C, which is direct to consumer, digital to consumer. Today, performance marketing is important. You put money in whatever works.
Yeah.
And fourth, dare I say, and I want to say it on NewsX, I think for the first time, you will see that actually over the next 6 months, our companies will be in a better shape than they ever have been.
No, I'm convinced of that. Okay, we've got a few minutes left, Anurag. Let's go back to a thread that we left earlier and quickly touch upon that, if I can, with Mr. Chadha. Mr. Chadha, reform can do what stimulus can't do. I mean, without spending a single money in government, we can just free the rest of you to run the economy for us. Now, we were promised that the state levels would be mimicking and copying the reform drive that the center on labor and other things that had been set up about a month and a half now ago. Are we seeing that happen, or are we once again seeing a derailment in hesitation in various parts of the country on labor, on other kinds of reform?
So I would say that it's not too much of a disconnect. The states have been mimicking and actually, I think it's more like a consortium. It has to happen like a concerted effort. It can't be independent of state or the center. And I think that's somewhere I see a lot of better coordination now happening between the state and the center. So that whatever the rules or the things which have been framed are more consistent. At least there are no surprises, hidden surprises. Of course, there are smaller issues which can come up in terms of containment zone opening up, delays and all that, which impact specific businesses in those locations. But overall, I think, on specific issues like relief measures, we need to be a little cautious. I think what happens is the money will never be enough, and therefore the government.
Okay,
is
so
right
let's dump that for a second. What are the last few things that are tying your hands behind your back that you wish you were freed of? That whenever the recovery happens, and it will happen, that you guys can take a running start.
For example, now I believe that we will be able to start operating higher occupancies, because we are seeing that Q2 onwards, there is a resilience in terms of businesses in certain sectors like telecom or IT. So the sector or the hotels around those areas are already seeing peak occupancy. So it's possible for us to take on those businesses. If there are certain guidelines which we follow, and there are guidelines and safety measures which are getting incorporated into the business model, I think that flexibility, if given to the operator, it should make a bigger impact.
Give the flexibility and then monitor it, because this is going to be part of our lives for an extended period of time. Let me quickly get in Nani Singh back into this. Ms. Singh, I share your same frustration, because getting people to pay for news is almost as impossible as to get them maybe to pay for online events. But what's the one thing that you've seen that is a model that has actually worked? That you go, hang on, if we do more of this, this can work in the future.
So Rishabh, typically the model of digitization is exceptionally important. We will eventually have to proceed towards the model of hybrid events as and when the situations open up, and then we'll be able to diversify into that sector. Having said that, I think being in the events industry, we really have to keep taking each day as it comes and kind of being in the moment and absorbing that. I think at best we can do that. And, having done a little bit of research on this subject in the last few days, seeing the way the trends are going, there is X amount of digital fatigue also setting into people. So that, craving for live space is coming back. Now, obviously, certain SOPs will have to be observed to get back into live space. And for the event industry particularly, we will have to do it. I mean, there's no option in the matter. Of course, we'll have to bring a combination of the two, the digital space and the live space, to create that complete experience for the
One
audience.
of you guys here needs to invent that bubble suit that we can wear, and and this walk around, which is hopefully with a mini AC inside it. Anurag, why don't you take it? We've got about 10 minutes left.
So, I want to ask each of our panelists one prediction for the future and one recommendation, whether to the government or to the banks and lending institutions, because at the end of the day, it's about liquidity, or to entrepreneurs. So I will start with you, Nani, first. Either recommendation or one prediction.
So my prediction, Anurag, is for sure that things are going to get better. Okay. Of course, like I say that always, it's only going to get better for those that want to make it better. For those that don't want to, like Kunal said, I mean, if you're going to die, you're going to die. So things are going to get better. So don't lose hope for sure. And my recommendation definitely is that, if things can be simplified, the models can be simplified, we can have one window systems for things. I mean, right now, everybody's having to deal with just so much stress and strain around even having to sustain. And then to have to deal with political diplomacies, that gets a little extra over the top, and it's really not required. So if we can kind of have systems narrowed down, more streamlined, become tighter, we don't mind them getting tighter. It's better for us. But make them tighter and then get them into one stream. I promise you, the event industry has a great future ahead. But we have to wake up and we have to modify ourselves, and we have to.
I'm just hoping that the end of this, we come out of this psychosis that we have in this country of, Ghar ki murgi dal barabar, and start having that respect for Indian entrepreneurs and Indian products. Major Rajai, why don't you take the same thought which Anurag started that thread?
And you said just before
yeah,
Manju,
yeah, go ahead. Anurag, go ahead.
Rajai comes in, I just want to say what you said is so important, because the British Raj created such a kind of psychosis or mind which has taken many years to kind of do away with. I hope this is the changeover movement where that psychosis goes away.
No, you start feeling good. I can tell you so many people, Anurag, was starting feeling good about Indian entrepreneurs and are pleasantly surprised that the startup culture in India is so vibrant that we actually have these so many companies. I have been pleasantly surprised watching these conversations the past 6 weeks, and that's the right impetus so that we can stop talking about Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai all the time. Why don't you, Major Rajai, take that same thought, your hope, prediction, and one demand that you would like to still see happen?
Okay, my prediction, I'm very much in line with Mr. Kumar. I see the next 12 months you will see a rebound, and probably we may be in a better space than what we were. So maybe I'm just a born optimist. I think the government is moving fast. It is moving with the right intent. From my industry perspective, I think getting employment rates up, ensuring that the MSME benefits reach the last level are important, because my industry is highly fragmented. It needs to consolidate, but it does not need to wither away. So a great amount of government support is needed, and most important, like I started with, the new wage act, the code has already come out, but the wage needs to be certified and it has to go to every state. But again, the positive part that I'm seeing, and one of the panelists had answered the question, what we are seeing is that the states are extremely proactive, probably a little more proactive than the center right now. They really want to get things going.
Okay, happy to hear that.
In fact, Rishabh, I've been calling it a patchwork pandemic, because the states have not really acted in unison or in coordination with each other. So that is something that we can do better, especially in the NCR region.
Anurag, with every single state minister I've interviewed in the past 1 month, if I ask them this fundamental question, and have you got your land banks ready? When you say plug and play, what does that mean? What incentives are you offering to Indian entrepreneurs before you start offering incentives to foreign entrepreneurs? Give our guys, our men and women, the best incentives before you start bringing in the foreigners. Mr. Kumar, same thought to you, sir. One prediction and one hope and one recommendation, sir.
Thank you very much. I am a born optimist, but this time I am really an optimist. We have got an opportunity, as my friends have just said, and let me say the following. I've had interaction in the last few weeks with several Indian young men and women in various institutions and otherwise, of course, on virtual platform. I'm really very encouraged. They are all bubbling with enthusiasm to do something. Now, they are entrepreneurs, they have ideas, we have to give them right opportunities, we have to help them. That is one part. But let me also say something which is not often recognized. In these states and in the districts, the district administration led by the IAS officers who are district magistrate directors,
yes,
we do not have any idea the amount of incredible work they are doing right now. Just Google and see the kind of incredible stories which you can see in various districts, which they are going out and doing themselves, innovating, helping people in the healthcare, in education.
Sir, I will take this up. You put out a very good idea. I've interviewed 6 district collectors in the past 1.5 months. We should do more. Let me see if I can do one every couple of days to showcase ideas, because these are some really young and smart people, highly well educated, coming up with great ideas. Finish your thought, Mr. Kumar.
I would also just like to add one more thing. What I feel is that in this crisis, we must have some kind of a competition. I'm basically a competition man, as Mr. Anurag Batra said. I was the first chairman of the Competition Commission of India. But a healthy competition among the states and among the districts. Let them come out with innovative solutions for the problems that we are all experiencing in healthcare, in drinking water, in education. And they are all people who are conversant with the latest technologies in artificial intelligence, in machine-to-machine or various learnings and whatever else. So they can come up with new ideas.
Mr. Kumar,
experiment.
the happiest model will be with entrepreneurs like this that are represented on the panel here. They come up with the solutions and the ideas, and the state authorities are open to taking ideas from outside, and they use the competition model rather than the tender model. I was interviewing the guys from MyGov in this new this communication app competition that they've been doing. Is invite 10 people, the top 5 get this lakh, these many lakhs as an award, and the winner gets the contract. That's the way to proceed further. Mr. Menon, getting excitement. Are you seeing a buzz and excitement? Not just you as an entrepreneur and as a company leader, but in family, in people you're interacting with about stuff that is Indian.
Oh yes, absolutely. I think there's no doubt about that. And let me just integrate this into the question that you asked. I think the next 3 odd months is going to be a little tough, and I think there's going to be a little bit of pent up demand coming out. So whomever I've spoken to, I think they're just waiting to go out there and buy things, and
okay.
So I think there's going to be a bit of revenge buying that's going to happen for a while. It's going to be a bit kind of checkered for the next 3 to 4 months, because the fear is still there, right? The fear of the unknown still exists. So थोड़ा बहुत हिंदी में कहते हैं ना, फूक के दूध पीने वाली चीज जो है.
Okay, and if you guys want some motivation in entrepreneurial optimism, come to anybody who is an entrepreneur in the media sector. We've had 10 years, 20 years of financial crisis globally. It never seems to end. Kunal Verma, quick last thoughts.
Sure. I think I'm an opportunist, so I see a lot of opportunity to make money and profits in the coming years. I'm pretty bullish about the Indian economy also in the longer term. Couple of quick things here. 2 things I think which the government and the economy we need to watch out for. One is I think the quality of GDP that we are adding back into the economy. So it's one thing to add GDP back. The second thing is the quality of the GDP. So, we are still like less than $2,500 per capita GDP as against, let's say, 50,000 capita in the US and the UAE and some other places, right?
Yes.
The quality of GDP matters a lot. So what level of the economy you're creating jobs, what level of the economy you're creating infrastructure, and how much is it putting it back into the GDP? I think while it's great to put a lot of stimulus out there, bottom of the pyramid, government should additionally pay attention to the quality of GDP, which is adding to the revival.
No, you're bang on. Well, bottom of pyramid is most important because that is subsistence and it gets spent immediately. So it gets put into the economy immediately. Quick last, I've desperately run short of time. Mr. Chadha, quick last, look, your thoughts, your predictions, sir.
So I remain optimistic. I think the industry, we actually look at the secondary data points. So the industry revival in some of the industries is heartening, and I think that will percolate down to demand in the hospitality as far as we can start opening up the rooms quickly. I've read somewhere that in a war, winners and losers depend on who writes history. So I frankly think that in the war against Corona, there are no winners, and therefore it will need to be a collaborated effort between us. Their differences have to be worked out, and I personally believe that India stands the golden chance post-crisis in making a mark and a quick recovery.
Now, all of you gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, need to write the history, be pepped up, perked up. Anurag, quick 30-second last word from you, then I need to take some news.
Rishabh, I'd say, especially today's panel, we do this every day, but, I'm reminded of that India is at the cusp of a new beginning, because Indian entrepreneurs' approach is like, if there is rain, look for a rainbow. If there is darkness, look for stars. So I see everyone on this panel looking for rainbows and stars, and that augurs well.
Well, I'm a big believer in proactive approach. I am definitely picking up Mr. Kumar's idea. We will profile district collectors and DMs across this country, as many as we can. Other IAS officers, IRS officers, the best we can for good work they're doing. And it's an open offer to all of you on this broadcast. If you are doing some innovative products, please take my number, reach out to me directly. Let's mainstream it so the people of India hear about that product. This is a Team India spirit that we need to be hammering on. We are all in the same boat. If all of us do well, we will take the rest of the country with us. Thanks so very much for joining us in this telecast.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.